My soon-to-be ex-wife was my high school sweetheart. We started dating in 1992 when we were both 17. We're both 45 now and have been together ever since. She's the only woman I've ever been with my entire life. We married 5 years later, fresh out of college. A year later, we had our first of two children, both boys. In 17 to 23 years, I gave to her, built her a house, worked my ARS off to give her the life she wanted. Sure, we had rough patches, but what marriage doesn't? Even in the worst of times, we found a way to pull through and come out the other side better, which made the discovery of her affair that much more jarring. Flashback to March 2020, when I first got the feeling something was off. For a good 2 months prior, we were in a funk. I was on the mend from reconstructive knee surgery, blew out my ACL in fall 2019, but still lacking in movement. At the time, I only had about 50% range of motion in my knee. This took a toll on quite a lot in the house. I was out on workers' comp as I had been injured on the job, and I was unable to do my usual household duties, so a lot got backed up. My sons would do what they could, but tasks only I was capable of doing had to be put on the back burner, or my wife had to do them, which she wasn't pleased with. Things also crawled to a standstill in the bedroom between us. It had already slowed down prior to my injury, but in the state I was in at the time, it completely stopped. During these months, she, we'll call her Susan, was spending more time hanging with coworkers afterward, between November to March 2020. It was a regular occurrence for her. Naturally, I thought nothing of it. I'd never, in the 23 years I'd been with her, had any reason to worry or not trust her. She has her friends, I have mine, and we have mutual ones. I'd go hang out with my friends all the time, and there was no issue. It was all above board. It was around January of this year that I noticed something odd. Susan started getting noticeably distant from me. Sure, we were in a funk, but she'd never denied me affection to that point. The usual hugs and kisses she'd give me came to a halt. Her phone was attached to her hand long before my suspicion grew, but she'd always share and show me things she discovered on the web. DIYs and recipes on Pinterest, memes, all kinds of stuff. She was now being guarded about her phone. Even her interactions with me became more snippy, as if she couldn't be bothered. So, we're now in March. COVID has arrived, and New York City is locked down. Our chosen careers fall under the essential designation, so neither of us has to work from home. I'd just been recently cleared to return to work after months on the shelf, and I was eager to get back after it. 5 months rehabbing my knee and not being able to do physical stuff drove me nuts. For context, I enjoy physical activities. I'm an avid martial artist, and I'm typically in the gym 4 days a week on top of all the home projects I did. Within a week or two of the lockdown, my soon-to-be ex-wife alerts me that she's going to have to start putting in extra hours again. I think nothing of this because of her field. Of course, I was under the assumption it'd be every other day. But no, it was every day, and not just an hour or two. She'd come home 3 or more hours later, go straight to the shower, spend a little time with me, a little time with our 17-year-old, and then go to bed. As I was able to support myself on my knee better, we started getting intimate again, but as you'd probably guess, she wasn't mentally or emotionally present for it, which I noticed quickly. So by early April, the picture started getting clearer to me. All of the signs were pointing to the idea that she was having an affair. That's bar. When I decided I needed to find answers, I scoured the internet for things I should be looking for, signs of infidelity in one's partner. Sure enough, she was pretty much ticking all the boxes of such behavior. So then my search inquiry advanced to how do I find proof? I started with her social media, looking at her Facebook entries from months prior. It was pretty much the usual. Pictures of us and our sons, pics with her and her friends, and more than a few pics of her nights out with coworkers. In these pics, it's a mixed bag of her closest friends from work and a couple of folks I'd never met. But I see one recurring thing in a number of these pics. One guy. In every picture he's in, he's rather uncomfortably close to her. His arm is around her shoulder or his hand is on her lower back, way too close for a guy I've never personally met. Needless to say, that put a sour taste in my mouth. But that wasn't the worst of it. No. The worst was the fact that apparently This dude is a friend of hers on Facebook and follows her on Instagram. So, I went to look up his Facebook account, and wouldn't you know it, I'm blocked. Why the hell am I blocked from seeing this guy's Facebook account, but he's friends with her on Facebook? Yep, now I'm in Batman detective mode. At that point, I wasn't even trying to deny it. I knew she was cheating on me with this guy. My mission was to find out for how long. And over the course of April and May, that's what I did. You know, I never had any clue about the depth of info you could secure from phone, text, and email records up until then. We have a family plan cell phone package, and I was able to pull up quite a bit of data. My soon-to-be ex-wife's data history was telling. The two most frequent numbers she had interacted with from October 2019 to April 2020 were my own and a number I'd never seen before. Take a wild guess whose number it was. A quick check on Google, and I confirmed it was the dude from the photos who blocked me on Facebook. We'll call him Kevin. Again, the picture becomes even clearer at this point, but a lot of their messages and texts were disjointed, which meant she was deleting a lot of them. I knew she was cheating on me with this guy, but nothing in the data could serve as a smoking gun. I needed more evidence. It was at this point that I told my best friend James what I had found. He asked me, did I confront her with what I had? And I said no, because I felt like it wasn't enough. That's when he told me about an app that I could download to apparently spy on her communications in real time. I won't say the name, as I don't know the rules on that here. I got it installed, synced up with my data plan, and waited. Within days of doing so, I finally saw it, a text string between the two of them talking about how much fun they'd had the previous night and making plans to do it again that weekend. Boom. Gut punch. To say I was completely devastated is an understatement. I guess that moment counts as my D-Day. For the next 2 days after, I was just broken. I actively distanced myself from her during those 2 days, which she was noticeably shaken by. She tried to console me and ask what was wrong, but I'd brush it off and leave her presence. I couldn't even look at her, this woman who I gave 23 years of my life to, who I have given everything I could and more to as a husband, and she stepped outside of our marriage for a guy just 5 years older than our eldest son. By the third day, I wasn't even sad anymore. I was pissed. So I fire up the app, and sure enough, they're actually texting in real time. She tells Kevin, I know he's cheating on me. I asked him tonight, and he literally laughed in my face. He fell on the floor and laughed for like minutes. It wasn't minutes, OB. Obviously, he doesn't even care how I feel anymore. I don't know how or why, but he's gone. I know I've lost him. This is karma. I know it. A smile I had on my face reading that must have resembled the Cheshire Cat. She was breaking. Kevin attempted to console her, saying that if I cared enough for her, she wouldn't have had to come to him to give her what I wasn't giving her. But the tone of her responses told me she was having doubts. Now she had the nerve to step out of our marriage because I was unable to fulfill my role as a husband due to a legitimate injury and kept the affair going for, at that point, nearly an entire year. But the idea of her losing me to another woman was enough to make her waver. What a weakling. Now, during all of this, I was also exacting the second part of my plan for payback, getting all of my affairs in order financially. In September, I had met with a family attorney to get the ball rolling on divorce papers with the mountain of evidence I'd piled up to that point. New York is an at-fault state as far as divorce, and the overwhelming amount of proof I'd gathered displaying Suzanne's infidelity pretty much solidified I could nail her to the pine wall in a divorce case. My lawyer instructed me to get all of my financials in order in preparation for whatever division of assets might come as a result. I can see how it looks, but there's nothing there. I'm sorry if those pics hurt you. I'll delete them. No, the pics aren't what hurt me. The year you've been, the dude whilst lying to me that you're working extra hours and hanging with friends is what hurt me. As Worf from Star Trek so famously said, revenge is a dish best served cold. Since that night, Suzanne has been extra, especially clingy and attentive to me. She's tried to initiate affection and intimacy with me, and I'd stonewall her at every chance. All the while, I'm still archiving everything she's saying to Kevin. Mind you, by this point, I'd long since gone numb. Any desire I might have had to save my marriage was dead. I checked out the day I enacted the first phase of my plan. She's confiding in him that I've gotten worse, that she doesn't know what to do, and she feels like I absolutely hate her. Then comes the bombshell. She says she can't see him anymore. The guilt is too much for her, and she feels like karma is suffocating her. She can't risk losing me. She says that she loves Kevin deeply, but she is still in love with me, and she has to save her marriage before she loses me. No, my dear, you're about 6 months too late for that. Kevin loses his saying such lovely things as he doesn't love you the way I love you. And you're making a mistake. You can't just throw me away like this. The text chain would be the last they'd have until about 3 weeks ago. Throughout the remainder of November into December, Suzanne is tucked in limbo. She's trying to gauge where my headspace is and is still unable to tell if I'm actually being Meanwhile, Kevin is steadily blowing her phone up daily, but she's not responding to him. I'd see her, check her phone, often the quickly, put it away. Meanwhile, phase 2 of the plan was now officially complete. The divorce papers were done. I'd found myself a studio department in Co-op City, New Yorkers, will know the area, and signed a that-year lease on it. All of my money was in my personal account. I was ready to throw my haymaker. So we're now at Thanksgiving. My oldest and his girlfriend were hosting a small gathering of our immediate families. So them tan girlfriend, oldest girlfriend's parents, she's an only child myself, Susan and our youngest. We had a great night. My oldest girlfriend is studying to be a chef, and she does all the cooking herself. The girl can cook. Let me tell you, as I had to keep up appearances of nothing being wrong between Susan and me. I initiated affection with her several times. That evening, kisses on the cheek, cutely hugs, wrapping my arms around her shoulders, from behind the gestures. Didn't go unnoticed by her, as she reveled in it bare. In mine, this was the first time I touched this woman since I kissed the top of her head. The night she confronted me in October. So just about 2 months, not gonna lie, I felt repulsed doing it. But I had to. I couldn't risk the plan and me being distant to her in the face of my boys. My oldest's girlfriend and homebrew. Her parents would set off alarms, so my youngest decides he wants to stay over with his big brother for the night, so Suzanne and I head home on the drive home. She thanks me for being so good to her and says, "I don't know what you're going through, baby, but I'm here for you." It had to hold off, busting out in maniacal laughter again, and responded by saying, "I know, I just need time." So for the first time, realistically since springtime we had sex that night, I figured, with what I'm about to do, may as well get some action before I delete her from my existence. I won't go into detail, but it wasn't lovemaking. When I was finished, she was a lump of fleshling, the retrying to figure out the direction of the truck that ran her over, not cuddle or anything, after I just got up, showered, and went to sleep in my office. As to her confusion, though I used a condom first time, 2 damn decades. She was definitely perplexed by it, but she didn't ask questions. Sure as hell wasn't going raw in her knowing that she'd been doing so, with Kevin 4 months at that point. I woke up the next day and checked my handy-dandy spy-pin for the first time in weeks. She responded to Kevin. The dude went full Nala, had professed his love for her, said she was wasting her time trying to rekindle flame in method, died. Let that she'd been in a prison with me for 23 years and deserved to experience the love and affection of a man who would cherish her. Mind you, this dude is 27 years old, 5 years older than our oldest son, and he's that sprung on a bi-year-old married mother of 2. What a grade A high-quality S. She chose to blow up our marriage and destroy the home we'd built for this dude, pretty boy with a soft side. She responded, saying pretty much the same thing. She said when they last talked that she loves him and enjoys their time together, but she can't lose me. I'm still the love of her life. But she'll always have a place for him in her heart. They can still be friends if he chooses, but the physical relationship between them is over. He begged her to see him one last time that week, and yep, you guessed it, she said yes. One more for the road, right? Who am I to say anything? That's what I did to her the previous night. Of course, I added all of that to the archive I'd compiled. December 4th is when Phase 3, the final phase of Operation Shinobi Ghost, started. The divorce papers were in hand, my new place of residence was set up, and now I had to slowly start moving my stuff out of the house. But first, I had to break the news to my boys. I called my oldest to the house that Friday night and had them join me in my office. I laid everything on the table, not the specifics, but that their mother had been cheating on me for over a year and that I was going to be filing for divorce. My younger son was especially shaken up by this because he had recently experienced his first taste of infidelity. Yep, his first girlfriend had cheated on him just 4 months prior. Seeing his heart broken a second time at the idea that his own mother was capable of doing this hit him hard. My oldest took it a lot better and even suggested taking his brother in to live with him until things blew over, to which I agreed. We packed up some of his stuff, and he asked me, "Are you going to be okay?" I told him, "Yes, son, I'm going to be all right, and so are you. We're going to be all right. I promise." And then they were off. The hardest part was now over, and it was time to arm the nukes. Over the next few weeks, day by day, James helped me get a little of my most sensitive stuff out of the house. I gave him a list of all the definite stuff to grab while Suzanne and I were at work and left him the spare key. This was all stuff Suzanne wouldn't notice was missing unless you told her it was gone. I had also gotten a new phone and phone number and informed everyone who needed to know, James, Joey, Na, my boys, my big sis, and my mother, of my new contact info. Meanwhile, I kept up the ruse with Suzanne. She's none the wiser, and I'm trickling bits and pieces of affection to her just to keep her off the trail. Meanwhile, she's still in contact with Kevin, not to the extent that they had been before, but there's still an emotional thing happening. The fog is faint, but it's still there. All the while, I'm gathering everything. And I do mean everything. Every bit of data I've archived since I started the plan. Call logs, texts, pictures, emails, everything. Then I started making printouts. Folks, I must have spent over $1,500 on Staples supplies, printer ink, paper, binders, the works. I cataloged everything in order from the beginning of the affair until the last bit 2 weeks ago, on December 16th, in 14 binders. I put each binder in a box, gift-wrapped them, and addressed them to various people. My mother, my father passed away 7 years ago, her parents, her 2 sisters, her brother, and her HR department. Did I forget to mention Kevin works for the same company? And there's an express rule against intercompany relationships because of the nature of what she does. Several of her friends, Kevin and Kevin's parents, also got packages. I lugged all of those to the post office and shipped them all out on December 16th, with ITA, estimated time of arrival, set for December 24th. Perfect timing. So, we're now on Christmas Eve. Suzanne comes home around the usual time. No idea if she'd seen Kevin. I'd stopped tracking her on the app on the 8th, figuring I'd gotten all the mileage I needed from it. As per usual, she showers, hangs out with me a bit, and I blow her off back out on the living room couch, and she turns in for the night, and the final phase was upon me. At long last, the nuke I'd been arming since June was finally about to be launched. In the middle of the night, I woke up, wrapped up one of the 3 remaining binders with the divorce papers taped to the inside cover, and set it on my side of the bed. Next to it, I left a note that said, "Merry Christmas," along with my old phone and the business card of my lawyer. I packed up the remainder of my most needed items, just enough to fill 2 backpacks, and left the home I'd spent 23 years in for the last time. That, my friends, was 1 week ago. To Suzanne, I am completely off the grid, gone, shadow, ghosted. She's blocked on Facebook but still hasn't blocked me for some reason, so I'm keeping tabs on the fallout. It's absolutely glorious. My packages have reached everyone I sent them to, and Suzanne is getting crucified. Her youngest sister completely dressed her down. Both of her parents have condemned her. My mom absolutely destroyed her. Like, holy. I know my mom has a mean streak, but the things she called Suzanne were unfucking believable. From what a mutual friend who works in the same company as her told me, Suzanne and Kevin are apparently being put on administrative leave as of tomorrow, so yeah, chances are she'll be going into unemployment. As for the final 2 binders, one has been turned over to my lawyer as my final bit of evidence for the divorce. The last one, well, that's sitting in my storage unit, waiting to be burned in Joey's fire pit when the divorce is final. Do I feel guilty about this? No, not in the slightest. For 23 years, I did right by this woman. I gave her the home she wanted, the family she wanted, and the life I felt we both deserved. I loved her unconditionally. Never did I falter, stray, or even entertain the notion of breaking my vows. When an issue came up that I felt was affecting our marriage, I came to her and we sorted it out as best we could. But she opted to find comfort in another man's bed rather than come to me and say she was unhappy with our sex life at the time. She decided to step out with a young punk who gave her the tingles. So no, I have no sympathy for what I did or for her. She can burn in hell for all I care. The most I stand to lose is my house, a car, and maybe a couple $100 a month in alimony. But seeing as the divorce is filed under the statute of adultery and she's at fault, that might get waived with the insurmountable amount of evidence I've provided. As far as I'm concerned, she's dead to me, and I'm never looking back. And so we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching.